Hey, I just finished reading this book, Lie With Me, by Philippe Besson, who I'd never ever heard of until about a week ago when I was sitting at my sister's house. My sister's house is great. She's got tables with books piled up everywhere. So I just sat down and started going through the books. I picked this one up, and when I saw that, well, just a review, stunning and heart-gripping. Andre Achiman, author of Call Me By Your Name, number one French bestseller, winner of the Maison de la Presse Prize. So I thought this must be pretty good, right? Um, it is. It's amazing. So I opened it and I started reading it. And one of the quotes in the beginning of the book is by Bret Easton Ellis, who was one of my favorite writers maybe 10, 15 years ago. And I read this passage of his, and it just got me. It was so good. I concluded with an aching finality that the could happen possibilities were gone, that doing whatever you wanted, whenever you wanted, was over. The future didn't exist anymore. Everything was in the past and would stay there. Now that got me because I love the past. Not that I'm not thinking about the future, but there was another article, there was a study I read about in this last book I reviewed, I think, Science for Life, which was in the psychology section of that book. And it talked about how most people's recollection of their teenage years is, according to this one study, is inaccurate. They think it was less enjoyable. They think they were less positive, less confident, less. I, I couldn't get that because when I think of my teenage years, the ages between about 10 and 20 was just the best time ever. The most magical time when I was 100% confident. At about the age of 18, I probably start giving a damn what people think and what will they say. When you start being really interested in girls and you think, oh, what will she think? Well, I hope she likes this. Before that, I didn't give a damn, and life was amazing. It was wonderful, and they were just, the best friendships, the best times, the greatest discoveries, the most amazing time, the happiest time of my life. Um, the reason any of that is relevant is because this is set. It's I'm not sure how much is autobiographical and how much is actual fiction, but it's the writer talking about. No, the writer's gay, by the way. I didn't know this when I started reading the book. So there are scenes in there which, if you're hetero, straight, whatever you want to call it, you might read them and think, oh, this is a bit, you know, it's a. I said to my wife that book that I borrowed from my sister, yeah, gay porn. But so what? Look, if what's the difference between writing about that and writing about normal, I say normal heterosexual uh, sex in a book? It's just it's literature, but the writing in this is it's beautiful. It's really nice. He talks about when he was a teenager and he fell in love with this other guy and what their relationship was like and what it's a beautiful story. Um, he starts off by talking about being interviewed in a hotel, and in the middle of an interview, he recognizes someone who he mistakes for his young boyfriend, 25 years later. And he runs up behind him and he calls his name. He taps the guy on the shoulder. It turns around and it's not him. And then it takes you into a story. Later on in the story, you go back to that, and I don't want to spoil the surprise. It's it's a really well constructed story. It's believable. The way he talks about his youth. It's almost like if you could give memories words and feelings words, and that for me is good writing. It's such a nicely constructed story. I don't want to tell you about it because I want you to go away and read it. Um, it's very French. I don't know. The guy's obviously French. It's translated by Molly Ringwald. I never heard of her before. Let's see. She'll be somewhere on the inside cover. Molly Ringwald. Molly Ringwald's writing has appeared in the New Yorker, the New York Times, the Guardian, and Vogue. She's the author of the best-selling novel in stories When It Happens to You, and she's clearly fluent in French as well. Let me just read you the back of this book because the story is so delicately constructed that it's almost, if I tell you any of it, it will take away from the impact of reading it. It's regardless of your orientation, if you can get past the, I can't possibly read about anything written by a gay, it's a beautifully written story. And whether it's straight or it's gay, the same feelings are there when you love somebody. And the way he captures that, and then the regret afterwards, the way their lives go and separate and then reconnect, but never actually. It's great. Let me read you the back. An intense, unforgettable novel, alive with the ache of longing and loss. Yes, it is. It has been years since anything moved me as much as Lie With Me. It will become a classic. Jonathan Coe. I don't know who these people are, by the way. A deeply moving depiction of first love, both tender and elegiac. Elegiac. I'm probably not saying that right. New word. I got from this book. I love it when you read something, you get a new word. Insouciance, which is a free, innocent, careless, no, a free, innocent happiness, which is of, which is without guilt or cares. I read the definition once, so I have to go back to it, but it's a beautiful word. The insouciance of children. That's a phrase that comes to mind. So if you get nothing else from this book, you might learn a few new words. Words are always useful. I love it. Even though it's about a gay relationship, but that's part of the story. How that impact, how it's required to be secret and everything, and where it's autobiographical. I mean, the guy must be in his 50s now. He goes back to what it was like in the 80s, what it was like in the 90s, and if you're alive, then you'll recognize it. He talks about the news. He talks about the emergence of AIDS and everything else. It's not that long. It's 148 pages, I think. Yeah. So I started reading it last night and finished it off today. It's actually only got 3 chapters in it. The first chapter is probably 100 pages long. Beautiful story. If you've ever loved somebody or you have memories, it will take you back there. It's really, really good. Really surprised me. I'm glad I picked it up from my sister's house, and luckily for me, I've got another bunch of books to read now because somebody sent them to me in the post. So I know there wasn't much information in that, but this is brilliant. So I hope you do go and read it. It's really enjoyable, and I imagine I'll read some other things by Philippe Besson as well now. So I've discovered another writer I like. There you go.